On a dark street, three bikers thought they'd found easy prey, a lone woman named Alara. They circled, taunting her, laughing at the small tattoo on her arm. But when one reached out, her calm mask shattered. In seconds, bones cracked, ribs shattered, and two men lay screaming on the pavement. The third tried to escape, but Alara ripped him off his bike and slammed him down. Terrified, he gasped one word: Special Forces. She stood over them, eyes cold, voice deadly quiet. You picked the wrong woman. The hunters had become the hunted. Proof that sometimes the quietest people hide the deadliest storms. The darkness of the deserted street was oppressive, the only sounds echoing through the empty alleys. Three men on two bikes rode by, their taunts and laughter ringing in the ears of Alara as she walked alone at night. The chill of the early morning air made her heart race, but she remained calm, knowing that they were just a figment of her imagination. Alara's tattoo was intricate, depicting a fierce dragon with wings spread wide above its head, symbolizing strength and courage. It wasn't an outward display. Rather, it held within a woman who refused to be intimidated or underestimated by anyone. As she turned the corner onto another street, a group of men appeared out of nowhere, dressed in tactical gear. The bikers circled around them, their taunts growing louder with each passing moment. They laughed at Alara's small tattoo on her arm, as if daring her to prove that they were more intimidating than they seemed. But the women had always been a threat on her own terms. She raised an eyebrow and made eye contact with one of the men. I picked you, she said in a voice so cold it could cut through metal. You're no match for me. The man's eyes widened, his grip slipping as he tried to regain control of his bike. He hesitated for a moment before blurting out an exclamation, caught off guard by Alara's unexpected response. Special Forces, he repeated in disbelief. We know you've got some kind of secret weapon or special training that no one else can match. Alara chuckled darkly, her gaze fixed on the man as she walked away from him and onto a third street. She knew they had made a mistake. Their tactics were too aggressive and their intentions too clear. The men in the bikes continued to circle around her, taunting her with more verbal abuse before turning back towards Alara's apartment building. They knew that she was out on patrol, but they also realized that there could be no escape this time. Alara stepped onto the pavement, her heart pounding against her chest as she began to make her way down a narrow alleyway. She had heard rumors of a secret base hidden deep in an abandoned warehouse just off the street, and now she was determined to find it out for herself. As she walked through the dimly lit passage, Alara could hear snippets of conversations from nearby rooms, each one more sinister than the last. The sounds were distorted by the darkness, but they all seemed to point towards a room with high walls, heavy metal doors, and secret passageways that led deeper into an abandoned city. Suddenly, her path was blocked by two men standing at opposite sides of the entrance. They had been waiting for her, dressed in black tactical gear and equipped with weapons. Alara's heart raced as she realized that they were more than just hunters. They were part of a group dedicated to stopping the Special Forces. Special Forces, one man sneered, his eyes narrowing as he aimed his weapon at Alara. We know you've got some kind of secret weapon or special training that no one else can match. Alara felt a surge of determination wash over her as she prepared for battle. She knew that they would have to use all their skills and tactics if they wanted any chance of defeating the Special Forces. Special Forces, Alara repeated, brandishing a silenced pistol at the man's shoulder. I know what you've got. With each step, she moved closer to her goal, ready for whatever came next. The two men tried to back away as Alara advanced towards them, their weapons drawn and aimed in every direction. But then, something unexpected happened. The entrance began to shake violently, causing the floorboards to creak and shatter underfoot. As Alera's footsteps echoed through the empty hallway, she suddenly saw a figure darting from one room to another. It was a woman dressed in black tactical gear with long hair that cascaded down her back, and it seemed to be moving at incredible speed. Alera let out an excited gasp as she recognized the familiar face on screen. The Special Forces leader had been watching her for weeks, gathering intel on Alera's movements and weaknesses before launching their surprise attack. But now, it was time for a showdown. The two men turned around to confront the woman who had emerged from one of the rooms, guns drawn in hand. They recognized each other immediately, but there were no words needed as they launched into battle together. Alera fought with all her might, determined not to let this enemy get away. The Special Forces leader was a skilled warrior and an expert at using their weapons, but Alera had trained for years under the tutelage of the legendary martial artist, Katarina, who taught her everything she knew about self-defense and combat. As they fought, Alera felt the weight of Katarina's legacy on her shoulders. She remembered all the pain and suffering that she'd faced as a young girl growing up in a war-torn country. But now, she was fighting for something bigger than herself. The Special Forces leader had brought her to this moment, not just because they needed her help against their own enemy, but also because of her unique abilities. With each blow and kick that Alera struck back at the woman, Katarina's voice rang in her head, urging her to keep going. She knew she was doing everything she could to protect those who trusted her, even if it meant putting herself in harm's way. In a moment of clarity, Alera realized that this wasn't just about stopping the Special Forces. It was about defeating them and restoring peace once again. With Katarina by her side, Alera charged forward with renewed purpose and determination, determined to emerge victorious from their battle and bring justice to those who had been wronged. The two men fought back harder than ever before, but despite their best efforts, they couldn't keep up with the relentless assault of Alera's attacks. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Alera struck a killing blow that sent both men crashing through the walls and into the darkness beyond. As she closed her eyes, breathing heavily from the adrenaline rush, Alera knew that this was just the beginning of their fight against the Special Forces. She had learned many valuable lessons during this encounter, not only about herself, but also about the strength and resilience of those who would stand up for what's right in a world full of chaos and danger. She opened her eyes, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead as she prepared to continue the mission that would change the course of history. Alera. Special Forces had arrived on the scene, seeking to stop Alera's rebellion and restore peace once again. With Katarina by her side, she charged forward with renewed purpose and determination, determined to emerge victorious from their battle and bring justice to those who had been wronged. The two men fought back harder than ever before, but despite their best efforts, they couldn't keep up with Alera's relentless attacks. In a matter of seconds, one of them was knocked down by her strike, sending him crashing through the walls and into the darkness beyond. The other managed to scramble out of his position, but it was too late. Alera had already landed another fatal blow that left both men lying unconscious on the ground. As she closed her eyes, breathing heavily from the adrenaline rush, Alera knew that this was just the beginning of their fight against the Special Forces. She had learned many valuable lessons during this encounter, not only about herself, but also about the strength and resilience of those who would stand up for what's right in a world full of chaos and danger. Alera opened her eyes, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead as she prepared to continue the mission that would change the course of history. She knew that Katarina was their only hope, but they had no idea how long it would take or if they even stood a chance against such skilled and powerful adversaries. The Special Forces were heavily armed and well-trained, with elite soldiers equipped with advanced weapons and gadgets designed to counteract Alera's cunning tactics. They moved quickly through the streets, evading any attempts by Katerina or her team to catch them in a trap or ambush. For hours, the fight raged on, with both sides trading heavy casualties as they battled for control of the area. The Special Forces attacks were relentless and precise, targeting Alera's movements and weak spots with pinpoint accuracy. However, Alera was determined not to let her team fall silent in their battle against such a formidable foe. As she fought off an enemy soldier, Katerina managed to intercept a message from one of the special forces that indicated they had received intelligence about a potential meeting point for them at a local coffee shop around the corner. With Alera's lead and the help of Katerina's team, the special forces quickly followed her into the establishment. The coffee shop was packed with people enjoying their morning caffeine fix, but as soon as they entered, it became clear that something fishy was going on. The air was thick with tension, and everyone seemed tense and suspicious of each other. Katerina stepped forward, taking a deep breath to calm her nerves before leading the team towards the center of the cafe. As they approached, Alera noticed several members of the Special Forces standing guard outside, their eyes fixed on them as if waiting for something unexpected. She knew that this was an opportunity too good to miss and decided to take matters into her own hands. Katerina ordered a drink from one of the baristas, who quickly poured it down her glass without hesitation. As she took a sip, Alera felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had always been skilled in self-defense, but now that was enhanced by Katerina's guidance and expertise. Katerina knew what to do next. She signaled for the special forces to take cover behind the counter, where they could remain unnoticed while she made their move. As Alera approached one of the guards, she spoke quickly and clearly, her voice shaking with determination, but also a hint of confidence in her ability to defeat them. "Hey, can we talk?" she said, holding out her hand for his attention. The guard hesitated at first, uncertain if he should trust this strange woman who had just arrived. But Katerina's gaze held him captive as she continued. "We're here because of a threat that threatens the peace in our city. We know about your team and their work to prevent violence and restore order, but we also understand that there are some individuals who may not see things the same way." The guard looked at her skeptically for a moment before nodding, understanding her perspective. "Okay, let's talk," he said, his voice firm. Alera led him across the counter and into a private room where they could speak without being caught in their tracks by any of the other customers around them. Katerina ordered herself another drink while she explained to the guard about Alera's background and her vision for a world free from violence and corruption. The Special Forces had been following Alera's lead, hoping that she would be able to persuade them to join forces with her mission. However, as they listened to her words, they realized that there was more at stake than just the peace in their city. There were those who sought to use the chaos and violence of Alera's rebellion against innocent civilians, using it as a means for personal gain or power. With this realization in mind, Katerina explained how she believed that by working together with them, they could not only defeat Alera's enemies, but also take down their plans to do so. She outlined the steps they would need to follow and provided her team with information about potential targets and strategies for taking them out once they had succeeded. The guard was hesitant at first, but Katerina's determination and trust in her abilities convinced him that she was onto something significant. He agreed to join forces with Alera and her team, eager to work towards a common goal of bringing down the Special Forces and restoring peace back to their city once again. As they sat together, discussing strategy and planning for their mission, Alera couldn't help but feel grateful for Katerina's leadership and guidance. She knew that she had stumbled upon something truly powerful and dangerous, but with her team by her side, she felt confident in their ability to overcome any obstacle and bring about a brighter future for themselves and the people they served. As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, Alara couldn't shake off the feeling that this was just the beginning. The Special Forces were not going down without a fight, but Katarina's determination and leadership had given her team hope that together, they could achieve something truly remarkable. And as she looked out at the bustling city below, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, Alara knew that with the right people by their side, anything was possible. City Street. Night. The sun was setting over the dark, crime-ridden city of New Haven, and three bikers stood on a lonely corner, staring up at a lone woman walking down the street with her head held high. The trio consisted of Katarina, a skilled ex-Marine who had left her military career to pursue a life as an investigative journalist, Alara, a former Special Forces agent turned rogue, and Sam, a seasoned tracker who specialized in finding elusive criminal organizations. Katarina approached the woman cautiously, sizing her up with a practiced eye. She knew that she was dealing with something dangerous, someone who had been trained to carry out high-level missions for the most powerful criminal organization on Earth, the Black Hand. But despite their reputation as a deadly force, Katarina's determination and intelligence quickly won over Alara and Sam. Alara listened intently as Katarina outlined her plan for taking down the Special Forces and restoring peace in New Haven once again. She knew that it was going to be an intense operation, but she also had faith in Katarina's abilities and her team's resilience. Katarina explained that they would begin by infiltrating one of the most powerful criminal organizations operating in the city, known as the Brotherhood, a shadowy organization with ties to organized crime, drug trafficking, and international terrorism. She knew that this was no ordinary operation, but it presented an opportunity for her team to dismantle one of their main targets. Alara's eyes widened at Katarina's boldness and determination. "This is the real deal," she said, gripping Alara by the shoulder. "The Black Hand doesn't take kindly to those who challenge them." Sam nodded in agreement, his heart pounding with anticipation as he looked out over the city streets below. He knew that this was a dangerous mission, but he also couldn't deny the thrill of the chase and the potential rewards. As they approached the Brotherhood's headquarters, Katarina led her team through the dimly lit alleyways, their voices barely audible above the sound of footsteps echoing down the street. They snuck past security cameras, avoiding any guards or patrolling officers who might be tracking them. Once inside the building, Katarina and Alara quickly made their way to the main floor where they would meet with one of the Brotherhood's top leaders. It was a tense affair, as Katarina took control of the situation by planting her own foot in the door, while Sam quietly slipped out into the shadows behind them. The leader sat at his desk, surrounded by maps and documents that depicted various criminal networks across New Haven, including the Brotherhood itself. He watched with an intense gaze as they approached him, his expression unreadable until he spoke. "You have a plan," he said, holding up one of Katarina's notes, "but it requires bold actions to execute." Alara stepped forward and laid her hand on the man's desk, speaking in a calm voice that conveyed determination and conviction. "We will do whatever is necessary to bring down the Brotherhood and restore peace to New Haven," she said. The leader regarded them for a moment before nodding slowly. He studied their faces and then gestured towards Alara. "You are the only one with the skill and experience we need to carry out this mission." Alara's heart raced as Katarina stepped forward, her eyes blazing with excitement. She knew that they had stumbled upon something truly powerful and dangerous, but she also knew that with their team by her side, there was nothing they couldn't accomplish. The leader smiled at them, his voice warm and reassuring. "Together," he said, pointing towards Katerina's note. "We have the resources, expertise, and determination to bring down the Brotherhood and restore peace." As Alara turned back around and led her team out of the building, they knew that this was just the beginning. They had a mission at stake, their lives on the line, but with Katerina by their side, they were determined to see it through to the end. And as they stepped outside into the cool night air, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, Alara couldn't help but feel grateful for this opportunity and her team's unwavering commitment to bringing justice to New Haven once again. Global outline. Asterisk on a dark and quiet street in New Haven, 3 skilled bikers, Derek, Mark, and Sarah, are on their way to carry out a dangerous mission. They have been tracking the Brotherhood, an elusive group responsible for several high-profile crimes that have caused widespread fear and panic. Asterisk Alara, the lone figure they've stumbled upon, is the only one with expertise in military tactics and specialized weaponry needed for this operation. She possesses combat training and has honed her skills as a tracker to identify potential targets. Asterisk Katerina, their fearless leader and mentor, leads them deeper into the Brotherhood's territory. Their mission takes them through abandoned buildings, dense forests, and treacherous terrain, each step fraught with danger and uncertainty. They know that they must be careful not to attract the attention of the group or reveal any weaknesses in their plan. Asterisk as they navigate these obstacles, Katerina shares her knowledge of the Brotherhood's tactics and motivations, explaining that they are willing to do whatever it takes to maintain control over the city and protect their members. She reveals a personal vendetta against the Brotherhood and their leader, who she believes has been responsible for multiple deaths in her community. Asterisk meanwhile, outside New Haven, a group of law enforcement officers is monitoring the mission closely. They know that Alara and Katerina are up to no good and suspect that they may have stumbled upon evidence or valuable information about the Brotherhood's operations. This leads them to launch a full-scale investigation into their activities. Asterisk as the team infiltrates the Brotherhood's stronghold, they come across several key figures within the organization, including the group's leader, Jameson, who is revealed to be an elusive figure with a mysterious past and deep roots in the city's criminal underworld. Katerina confronts him and engages in a tense exchange of information about their mission. Asterisk the conversation takes place at a heavily guarded compound that houses various members of the Brotherhood, including Sarah, Mark, and Derek. They are all eager to hear more about Alara's plans and the potential risks involved. As they wait for Katerina's next move, tensions rise as each member feels pressure from their superiors or personal demons. Asterisk just when everything seems lost, a break-in at the Brotherhood's headquarters occurs, revealing evidence that suggests there may be another player on their side. A mysterious figure named Michael appears and challenges the group to engage in an intense battle for control of the compound. Asterisk Katerina rallies her team together, knowing that they must quickly find a way out before Michael gains too much power or takes over the operation. They manage to neutralize the attacker with quick thinking and precision combat training, but at great cost. As they make their escape through the heavily fortified perimeter of the compound, they realize that this battle has not only exposed the Brotherhood's true intentions, but also left them vulnerable. Asterisk back in New Haven, law enforcement officers launch a search for Alara and Katerina, looking for any evidence or leads to help bring down the Brotherhood once again. They follow their trail back to the abandoned building where they had first encountered Alara, determined to find her and uncover the truth about her mission. Asterisk inside, they confront Katerina, who reveals that she has been working with Michael throughout this operation, providing him with valuable information and resources while keeping a close eye on the Brotherhood's movements. They discover that he is not just another member of their own team, but was deeply involved in the planning and execution of several high-profile crimes. Asterisk with the truth about Alera's mission now exposed, Katerina faces a difficult decision: reveal her involvement to law enforcement or continue keeping it hidden for personal gain. She weighs the potential consequences of exposing herself as a double agent and must decide whether to risk everything in order to protect her team's safety. Asterisk the tension between Katerina and Michael reaches its boiling point, with both sides vowing to stop at nothing to silence her once again. In a tense confrontation, they engage in an intense battle for the fate of their lives and that of New Haven. Asterisk as the fight rages on, Alera emerges victorious, having managed to overcome Katerina's overwhelming strength and influence. With Michael captured, she reveals his true motivations behind the Brotherhood's operations, including a desire for power, control over criminal activity, and revenge against those who have wronged her in the past. Asterisk realizing that they are no match for the Brotherhood and their leader, Katerina makes one last desperate effort to take down them all. She leads her team back into the abandoned building where they had first discovered Alera, determined to destroy everything and erase any trace of this dangerous organization from New Haven's history. Asterisk as they execute a devastating attack on the Brotherhood's compound. The remaining members are taken captive and brought before the law enforcement officers once again. With their mission accomplished, Katerina steps back, relieved that her team is safe but deeply saddened by what they have witnessed. She knows that this was not just a triumph for herself or her team, but a fight against an entire criminal organization. Asterisk as the dust settles and New Haven begins to rebuild after the Brotherhood's defeat, Alera, Katerina, Mark, and Sarah reflect on their harrowing experience and how it has changed them forever. They know that they will continue to work together as a team, always vigilant for danger and prepared to take bold steps in order to protect their city and its residents from the evil forces that threaten it. Asterisk and so, New Haven emerges from this dark chapter of its history stronger than ever before, with Katerina at its forefront once again. She knows that her journey as a crime fighter will always be marked by danger, sacrifice, and resilience. But she is determined to use those experiences to make a difference in the lives of others and ensure justice prevails for all. In the heart of New Haven, a city that had once been at odds with its darkest secrets and criminal underworlds, Alera stood on the edge of danger. The former member of the Brotherhood, whose reign as one of their most feared leaders was finally coming to an end after his arrest by authorities in a high-profile case against the organization's members. Alera knew that this momentous occasion marked not only her own downfall, but also the beginning of a new chapter for New Haven and its inhabitants. As she gazed out at the bustling streets filled with neon lights, joggers, and bicycles, she couldn't help but feel a sense of melancholy wash over her. The city had been through so much in recent years, from the tragic loss of innocent lives to the rise of organized crime on every corner. But as she looked around, Alera's attention was drawn to a figure making its way down the street, dressed in black and carrying a dark bag. It was Mark, one of her closest friends and fellow combatant from the Brotherhood, who had been tasked with stopping this dangerous individual before they could strike again. Alera recognized his signature style, stealthy movements, quick reflexes, and an unyielding determination to protect those he cared about. She knew that she couldn't afford to let Mark down now. The city needed him more than ever. As Alera approached Mark's figure, their eyes met for a moment before they both turned to face each other with a sense of shared purpose in mind. "Mark," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper as she drew closer. "I can't believe it. You're back." "Alera," Mark replied, his expression grim. "We've been waiting for this moment for far too long. We need to stop these threats before they reach the city's core. The Brotherhood has lost its hold on New Haven once again, and we must take control of our own destiny." Alara nodded in agreement, feeling a surge of determination within her as she fought against the fear that had been consuming her since their last confrontation. "We've done this before," she said firmly. "In the past, we were able to overcome any obstacle that came our way thanks to your unwavering loyalty and my own strength." Mark smiled slightly, a small beacon of hope in a world so dark and twisted. "That's right, Alara. And now it's time for us to put an end to this once again." He motioned towards the figure walking down the street, his eyes scanning the area with an intense gaze. Alara recognized him at once. Jack, one of the Brotherhood's most skilled assassins and a former member of her own team. She knew that he was the key to stopping Mark from carrying out his plans for New Haven, but she also couldn't shake off the feeling that something more sinister was lurking beneath the surface. As they advanced towards Jack, Alara could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she prepared herself for a dangerous confrontation. The sound of footsteps echoed through the streets as they closed in on Jack's figure, their eyes locked in intense scrutiny. Despite his mask and gloves covering his face, Mark was easily recognizable to Alara. He moved with an air of grace and precision, leaving behind small clues that pointed towards Jack's true identity, a scar on his left cheek that he had hidden away for years. Alara recognized the pattern as she drew closer, her own adrenaline pumping within her body as she prepared herself to confront Jack in battle. She knew that this would be no easy fight. The Brotherhood was not only skilled but also highly trained and well-equipped. As they advanced towards Jack, Alara could feel his movements growing more deliberate, a hint of the calculated planning he had been executing all along. He made his way over to Mark's side as she approached, their eyes locked in a fierce stare that sent chills down her spine. "I can't believe you're back," Alara said, gritting out the words through clenched teeth. "You've brought us together again for something greater than ourselves." Jack raised an eyebrow at Alara's statement before nodding slowly. "I know what we're up against, Alara. The Brotherhood is a dangerous organization with many members who would stop at nothing to protect their interests. But you and Mark have the strength, determination, and experience that can turn this tide in our favor." Alara felt her resolve strengthen as she prepared herself for Jack's final challenge. She knew that he was not just an assassin. He was a master of disguise and had successfully manipulated his way through the Brotherhood's ranks multiple times. In a sudden burst of power, Alara launched into battle, launching a series of well-planned attacks on both Mark and Jack as they fought side by side against the darkness that threatened to consume them. Her movements were lightning fast, her shots precise, and her strikes powerful enough to leave their targets stunned or even dead. As she battled through the chaos around her, Alara could feel the weight of the Brotherhood's forces bearing down on them. They followed Jack into a nearby alleyway, their eyes fixed on his figure as he made another move towards Mark. With all her might, Alara managed to dodge Jack's attacks and strike back with force, using every ounce of strength she had left in her body. She was able to land several powerful shots that sent Jack staggering backwards, but the Brotherhood soon caught up, launching a hail of bullets at them from all sides. As they fought through the gunfire, Alara could feel her own breathing grow shallow and her heart pounding with fear and determination. But she refused to give in. This battle was not about personal victory or defeat, but rather about protecting those who mattered most to her. In a desperate effort to hold off the Brotherhood's forces, Mark charged towards Jack, his sword drawn in preparation for the final assault. Alara recognized him at once. A skilled swordsman with a deep understanding of combat and an unwavering sense of honor that protected him from all harm. With a fierce cry, Mark launched a piercing blow straight into Jack's chest, stunning him before he could even react. As Jack stumbled backwards, his sword clattering to the ground, Alara was able to quickly follow behind him, using her own skills and tactics to gain an advantage over the Brotherhood once more. In a desperate attempt to escape their pursuers, they made their way through a maze of alleyways and back alleys, dodging bullets and narrowly escaping danger at every turn. It seemed like each step was one step closer to the end of their nightmare, but also one further step towards safety for themselves and those who needed it. Finally, after what felt like hours or even days of intense fighting, they emerged from the maze, breathing heavily yet exhilarated by the victory. The streets outside were now empty, with no signs of life in sight except for a few scattered survivors on their way to safety. Alara collapsed onto the ground, her heart racing as she looked around at Mark and Jack standing beside her, victorious but also battered and bruised from the fight they had just battled through. They both knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with challenges and obstacles, yet full of hope for a better future. Together, Alara and Mark vowed to continue fighting against the Brotherhood's reign of terror until justice prevails and New Haven is finally free from its grasp once again. They would face whatever came next, no matter how difficult or dangerous it might be, knowing that they had each other by their side as they faced the darkness together. The world may have changed since Alara first met Mark in the Brotherhood's ranks, but she knew that their bond and determination to protect others remained unchanged. She was ready for whatever lay ahead, eager to continue her journey as a crime fighter and work towards building a brighter future for all who lived in New Haven and beyond. Global outline. On a dark, deserted street in the heart of New Haven, three masked bikers, brothers Mark and Jack, were on their way to confront the enigmatic mastermind behind the Brotherhood's reign of terror. Alara, an innocent woman with a sharp mind and unyielding spirit, had stumbled upon them while searching for answers about her father's sudden disappearance. As she watched from afar, she could sense something off in Mark and Jack's demeanor, a hint of danger lurking beneath their cool exterior. The brothers were not the first to seek out Alara. They knew that someone was watching her every move, waiting for an opportunity to strike. They had infiltrated the Brotherhood through a secret society known as the Order, where members shared a common goal: to expose and dismantle this notorious gang's dark agenda. As Mark and Jack approached the woman, their hearts raced with anticipation and fear. They knew that Alara was not just any ordinary civilian. She was part of an elite group fighting against the Brotherhood for justice and the greater good. But would they be able to keep up with her cunning and stealthy tactics? Or would they fall prey to the Brotherhood's traps? Inside a small, dimly lit warehouse on the outskirts of New Haven, Alara sat cross-legged in front of a large table containing evidence linking the Brotherhood's leader, the Archivist, to her father's murder. She had spent countless hours poring over documents and witness accounts, piecing together clues that led her closer than ever before to unraveling the dark truth behind their crimes. Mark watched as Alara studied the table's contents with a focused gaze, his handsomeness starkly contrasted against the ruggedness of the Brotherhood's emblem. He knew exactly who was working towards bringing down this powerful force, and that he had been instrumental in uncovering its secrets during their time within it. Suddenly, Mark's attention shifted to Jack, as they both made a break for the exit through an open window. As Alara watched them disappear into thin air, her heart pounded with determination and fear. She knew that the Brotherhood was closing in on her, but she refused to give up hope of finding a way to stop their reign of terror. Asterisk in a nearby alleyway, Mark led Jack towards a hidden entrance leading deeper into the city's underbelly. As they made their way down, Alara followed close behind, scanning the dimly lit streets for any sign of danger or surveillance. Asterisk the street was deserted and eerie at night. Shadows danced across the pavement as Mark navigated through alleyways filled with abandoned buildings, graffiti-covered walls, and overturned cars. He could feel his breath grow shallow under the weight of the tension that hung heavy in the air, threatening to overwhelm him if he let go. Asterisk suddenly, they came upon a small cafe tucked away behind a rundown brick wall on a side street. The smell of fresh coffee filled their nostrils as they stepped inside, and Alara scanned the crowded room with renewed energy. Asterisk in the midst of the hustle and bustle, Mark spotted an old man sitting at a table alone in the corner, sipping his cup of black tea while gazing into a nearby book. He knew that this was their chance to strike, if he could find out the secret to Alara's father's disappearance. Asterisk as they approached the man, Mark motioned for Jack to wait outside, and he took off into the shadows behind him. With his training as a former military officer, Mark had honed his skills in stealth and combat, and this moment presented an opportunity to test his abilities against the Brotherhood's best assets. Asterisk using his martial arts prowess, Mark quickly drew close to the man, using every ounce of his body to maintain balance and control. He moved with grace and precision, dodging his opponent's attacks while striking with unexpected power from behind. Asterisk after a brief exchange of words, the old man revealed that Alara's father had been working for the Brotherhood as a spy, tasked with gathering information about their enemies in order to take them down without detection. He explained how he had defected and joined forces with Mark and Jack, providing valuable insights into their plans and strategies. Asterisk as Mark listened intently, his heart raced with excitement at the prospect of using this newfound knowledge against the Brotherhood's powerful leadership. It would be a risky move, but it could lead to a massive breakthrough in justice and bring an end to the Brotherhood's reign of terror once again. Asterisk with renewed determination, Mark stepped forward and confronted the archivist himself. He explained his findings about Alara's father's disappearance, sharing the evidence they had gathered with the old man, as well as their understanding of the Brotherhood's plans for New Haven. Asterisk the archivist listened intently to Mark's words, a hint of unease etched on his face before he revealed that the Brotherhood was planning an attack on New Haven at midnight. They knew that Alara and her father were targets due to the evidence they had uncovered, information about their plans and intentions for the city. Asterisk with adrenaline pumping through his veins, Mark's heart raced as he rallied all of his skills and abilities to stop the archivist's plan from coming to fruition. He knew that there was no time to waste. It would be a battle against forces determined to silence anyone who dared challenge their authority. Asterisk as they fought side by side in the dimly lit cafe, Mark unleashed a flurry of martial arts strikes at his opponent while using his intelligence and cunning tactics to outmaneuver the Brotherhood's henchmen. He knew that he had to use all available resources to protect Alara and bring an end to their reign of terror once again. Asterisk in the midst of the chaos, they discovered a hidden room filled with weapons and explosives at the back of the cafe. Mark made quick calculations, knowing that these items would be crucial in taking down the Brotherhood's leaders before it was too late. Asterisk with his training as an expert marksman and a skilled infiltrator, Mark swiftly moved into action, snatching a shotgun from the table and loading its sights on one of the Brotherhood's main members, their leader, the Shadow Master. He knew that this would be his last chance to stop them before it was too late. Asterisk as he launched the shot, the sound echoed throughout the cafe as Alara leapt in front of her attacker, tackling him with a fierce battle cry. She managed to disarm the Shadow Master and neutralize him using their combined strength and agility, effectively stopping his plan for an attack on New Haven. Mark's heart raced as he stood over the defeated enemy, panting heavily but victorious. He knew that they had completed another crucial mission, this time against a powerful organization known only to themselves. As Alera looked around at her now victorious foes, she felt a sense of pride and fulfillment wash over her. She was not just fighting for justice. She was working towards building a brighter future for herself and the people who lived in New Haven and beyond. With the Brotherhood's reign of terror finally brought to an end, Alera knew that they had successfully completed their mission, leaving behind a trail of proof against this powerful force that once held sway over the city. In conclusion, Mark and Jack had faced numerous challenges on their journey towards bringing down the Brotherhood's reign of terror. They risked everything, their lives, their reputation, and even their own safety to uncover the truth about Alera's father's disappearance and expose the criminal organization that threatened New Haven. But through perseverance, teamwork, and sheer determination, they emerged victorious in this fight for justice. As they walked away from the Brotherhood headquarters, they knew that their work was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that together, they could make a difference in the world once again. They had uncovered the truth about Alera's father and exposed the dark forces threatening New Haven, setting the stage for a new chapter of peace and prosperity. Are all who live there. And as they walked through the streets of New Haven, hand in hand, they knew that their journey was just beginning. Together, they were unstoppable. Dark Street. The sun was setting as the three bikers, Mark and Jack, approached the dark street that led to Alera's residence on the outskirts of New Haven. The streets were lined with abandoned buildings, their windows shattered, and graffiti covered the walls. It seemed like a place where crime had flourished for years. Mark stepped out from his bike, keeping an eye out for any potential threats or dangers along the way. Jack, who was behind him, followed closely, maintaining a steady pace as they navigated through the shadows of the cityscape. The air was thick with tension and suspicion, and everyone on the street seemed to be aware that something wasn't right. Mark turned his bike towards Alera's house, feeling an uncharacteristic sense of anxiety rising within him. He had heard rumors about a powerful figure called the Brotherhood, who had once ruled over New Haven with an iron fist, but their grip was starting to slip as the truth about her father's disappearance slowly began to unravel. As they approached the front door, Mark and Jack could hear footsteps coming from inside. They quickened their pace, hearts pounding in their chests, wondering if Alera would be home. The sound of keys clinking against lockers echoed through the halls, signaling that she was preparing for a confrontation with her father's enemies. Inside, they found Alera sitting on a couch, staring at a stack of papers before them. She looked up as they approached and froze in fear, unsure if they were intruders or just curious neighbors trying to get a look inside. "Alera," Mark said, his voice filled with concern. "Are you okay? You seem scared." Alera's eyes scanned the room for any potential threats before meeting Jack's gaze. She hesitated for a moment, her fear clear on her face. But then she slowly spoke, her voice shaking slightly as she explained the situation. "It's not just my father," Alera said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "The Brotherhood has been using me and others like us to carry out their secret operations, feeding off our fear and desperation." Mark hung his head in silence, trying to understand why Alera had chosen to trust them with such a dangerous mission. He knew that the truth about the Brotherhood was not something anyone wanted to hear, but he also couldn't ignore her desperate plea for help. "I don't know what they're planning," Jack said, his voice low and menacing. but I need you guys to investigate this carefully." Alara nodded eagerly, tears streaming down her face as she looked into Mark's eyes. She knew that their mission was risky, but she also felt a sense of responsibility for the safety of those around them. "I'll do whatever it takes," Alara said, determination etched on her face. "I know we're not invincible, and I don't want to risk anyone else's lives." Mark nodded in agreement, his heart racing as he listened to her words. He knew that this was a dangerous task, but they had no choice but to follow their instincts and try to unravel the truth about the Brotherhood. As they began their investigation, Mark and Jack uncovered a web of lies and deceit that led them deep into the heart of the Brotherhood's operations. They met with key figures within the organization, including high-ranking members who were willing to give up information in exchange for protection from Alara and her father's enemies. The journey was long and treacherous, but Mark and Jack persevered, driven by their mission and a desire to bring down this dangerous gang once and for all. They faced numerous obstacles along the way, including surveillance drones, rival gangs, and even attempts on their lives. As they continued their investigation, they discovered that the Brotherhood's operations were not just about power and control, but also about manipulating fear and desperation in order to maintain its grip on New Haven. They uncovered evidence of widespread corruption within City Hall, police departments, and other key institutions, as well as the involvement of powerful individuals who had ties to Alara's father. Mark and Jack knew that they were closing in on the Brotherhood's inner circle, but their enemies were not going down without a fight. In one devastating raid, they found themselves trapped in an underground facility deep beneath New Haven, surrounded by heavily armed guards and other criminal organizations vying for control of the stolen assets. Despite their best efforts, Mark and Jack managed to escape from the facility alive, but it left them with a shattered physical and emotional state. They knew that this was just one step on the road towards bringing down the Brotherhood once again, but they also understood that there would be no easy victories in this fight. As they walked away from New Haven, hand in hand, Mark and Jack knew that their journey had only just begun. Together, they were unstoppable, determined to make a difference in the world and bring peace back to the city where everyone lived. And as they looked out at the streets of New Haven once more, they promised themselves that this would not be the last time they faced danger or adversity. They knew that their fight was far from over, but together, they were ready for whatever lay ahead, knowing that their journey had only just begun and there would always be a place in which they could make a difference. The three bikers, Mark and Jack, had managed to escape the heavily guarded facility where they were held captive by the Brotherhood. Their journey back to New Haven was a harrowing one, filled with danger, suspense, and unexpected twists. They rode their bikes through the deserted streets of the city, their hearts pounding in their chest as they navigated the narrow alleyways and dark alleys that lined the side roads. The rain poured down from an endless sky, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. Mark's mind was racing with thoughts of all he had encountered during his time within the facility, including the guards who were hot on their trail, the dangerous machinery they had been forced to operate, and the mysterious individuals lurking in shadows. As they approached New Haven, Jack could feel the tension building inside him. He knew that the Brotherhood's grip was tightening around them with each passing day, and he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched by a constant presence of unseen eyes. Mark, on the other hand, felt a sense of determination growing within him, fueled by his unwavering commitment to bring down their enemy once and for all. Their first stop in New Haven was at the local coffee shop, where they met with a group of fellow survivors who had also managed to escape from the Brotherhood's grasp. These men were like-minded individuals, united behind a common goal: restoring peace to the city and eliminating the threat posed by the Brotherhood once and for all. They spent hours discussing their plans and strategizing on how to proceed next. They knew that they would need more resources and support in order to take down the Brotherhood's ranks effectively. But they also recognized the importance of building alliances with other groups who shared their vision for a better future. As they continued their journey, Mark and Jack encountered a group of criminals who were part of a secret organization dedicated to fighting against crime. These individuals had been working together for years under the radar, using their skills and knowledge to carry out missions and disrupt the Brotherhood's operations whenever possible. Mark knew that he couldn't defeat these individuals alone, but he was determined to bring them down as well. He approached them with a calm demeanor and explained his intentions, promising to work alongside them in any way they could to dismantle the organization and stop their activities from causing further harm to innocent people in New Haven. The criminals were hesitant at first, knowing that they had no intention of working for the Brotherhood, but rather wanted to eliminate anyone who posed a threat. However, Mark's persuasive arguments and his unwavering commitment to justice eventually won them over, and he was given the opportunity to join their ranks as an agent within their organization. Together, Mark, Jack, and the criminals formed a new unit known as the Alliance, with each member bringing unique skills and expertise to the table. They worked tirelessly in secret, gathering information on the Brotherhood's operations, identifying potential targets, and planning elaborate schemes for their attacks. As they continued to carry out their missions, the Alliance faced numerous challenges and setbacks along the way. They had to navigate treacherous terrain, evade detection by security forces, and overcome resistance from individuals who were resistant to change or saw them as an enemy of progress. But through it all, Mark and Jack remained steadfast in their determination to bring down the Brotherhood once and for all. They knew that they would face many obstacles along the way, but they also recognized the importance of staying true to their mission and working together with others who shared their vision for a better future. As they continued on their journey towards New Haven, Mark and Jack faced new challenges every day. But through it all, they remained determined to make a difference in the world and bring peace back to the city where everyone lived. They knew that this was just one step on the road towards bringing down the Brotherhood once again, but they also understood that there would be no easy victories in this fight. Finally, after months of hard work and sacrifice, Mark and Jack arrived at New Haven's bustling downtown area, ready for their final showdown with the Brotherhood. They were met by a group of armed guards who had been tracking them down all along the way. As they approached the Brotherhood's headquarters, Mark could feel his heart pounding in his chest as he prepared to face off against the enemy once and for all. But before he did so, he took a deep breath and spoke with confidence, reminding himself that together they were stronger than any single threat on their own. "Good morning, gentlemen," Mark said, looking at each member of the Alliance in turn. "I have good news to share with you today. We are no longer under attack by the Brotherhood. You've been working tirelessly behind the scenes, and we can now bring our mission to a successful conclusion." The group erupted into cheers as they celebrated their victory over the Brotherhood, knowing that their hard work had paid off in bringing about change for the better. As they left the headquarters, Mark looked back at New Haven with pride. He knew that it would never be safe from another threat like the Brotherhood, but he also felt a sense of hope and determination within him. Together, they were unstoppable, determined to make a difference in the world and bring peace back to the city where everyone lived. As he rode his bike away into the distance, Mark couldn't help but feel grateful for the journey that had brought them to this moment. He knew that their fight was far from over, but with the Alliance by their side, they were ready for whatever lay ahead, knowing that their mission would always have a place in which they could make a difference. And as he looked out at the streets of New Haven once more, Mark promised himself and his fellow citizens that this would not be the last time they faced danger or adversity. They knew that their journey had only just begun, and there would always be a place in which they could make a difference, working together to create a brighter future for all. Continuing the story of Mark and the Alliance in a dark alleyway, three bike riders stood facing off against a lone woman named Alara. They had been tracking her for weeks, trying to get close enough to catch their prey on camera, but so far, they had failed. Mark was known throughout New Haven as an unlikely hero, his bravery and quick thinking often leading him to the scene of the crime when others would have hesitated or stayed away. He was a former police officer turned vigilante, dedicated to protecting innocent people and bringing criminals to justice. Alara, on the other hand, had been involved in various criminal activities before she met Mark. She had grown up on the streets of New Haven, where violence and crime were commonplace, and her parents were often caught up in it themselves. Despite this upbringing, Alara had managed to find a sense of purpose and passion for helping others who needed it. As Mark rode his bike away from the alleyway, he couldn't shake off the feeling that they were dealing with something bigger than just their current mission. He knew the Brotherhood was always watching them, waiting for an opportunity to strike. They had infiltrated Alara's gang and taken control of one of its operations, but now it seemed like they were on a collision course. Mark couldn't help but feel the weight of their choices weighing heavily down upon him as he rode his bike further into the city. He knew that the Brotherhood was not an easy enemy to defeat, and if they succeeded in capturing Alara, it would mean everything for both them and the Alliance's cause. Alara had heard rumors about Mark from a fellow criminal named Alex, who had worked with her on a previous job. They had been tracking him ever since, but their paths crossed when he joined the Brotherhood to bring down the New Haven crime organization. Despite their shared past, Alara was hesitant to trust this new group and feared they would use her against Mark. As Mark approached Alara's hideout, she emerged from a dimly lit alleyway, looking determined and unafraid. She spotted him on his bike parked next to an abandoned building, the sound of sirens echoing through the streets nearby. Alara recognized Mark immediately, but she refused to engage in any physical confrontation with him. Instead, she stepped forward and greeted him with a smile before leading him inside the building. "Welcome to our hideout," she said, her voice low and urgent. Mark cautiously walked into the dimly lit room, taking in the chaos that surrounded them. The room was filled with weapons and equipment, including firearms, bombs, and surveillance cameras. He couldn't help but feel a sense of unease as he took stock of his surroundings. Alara led Mark to a table where they found evidence of her own involvement in the criminal underworld. She had been involved in numerous illegal activities from drug trafficking to money laundering, all with the Brotherhood at the forefront. As she spoke about their past dealings, Mark began to realize that Alara's motivations were not purely selfish. "I know I made mistakes," she said, her eyes scanning over a stack of documents on the table before adding. "But it was never my intention to hurt innocent people or turn our backs on those in need." Mark nodded thoughtfully as he listened, his mind racing with questions. He had always been drawn to Alara's sense of purpose and passion for helping others. But what if she really did have a darker side? What about the Alliance? Mark asked, his voice laced with concern. Alara hesitated for a moment before answering, her eyes narrowing as she looked at him. "I know they're not perfect," she admitted, "but I believe in their mission and the potential they hold to make a difference." Mark's heart sank slightly, but he knew that Alara was sincere about the Alliance's cause. He had seen firsthand how it could change lives for the better, from the moment its founding members dedicated themselves to justice and compassion. "I understand," Mark said finally, "but what if we're not compatible? What if our goals don't align?" Alara raised an eyebrow at him before shaking her head in a determined tone. "We have to find a way that works for both of us," she replied. "If the Alliance is going to make a difference, it needs someone like you on its side." Mark felt the weight of Alara's words sink into his chest as he realized just how important their partnership was. They had been through so much together already, and there were no guarantees that they would work out. But for now, Mark knew what he had to do. He nodded in agreement with Alara and walked towards a window in the room, staring outside at the chaos below. "I'll join forces with the Alliance," he said finally. "We can't let this fight go on any longer." Alara looked up from her computer screen, her eyes twinkling with excitement as she stood behind Mark. "That's exactly what we're going to do," she replied. Together, they would face the dangers of the streets and bring justice back to New Haven. They were not just a group of bikers, but a team determined to make a difference in the world and create a brighter future for all. And as they rode their bikes away from the Brotherhood's hideout, Mark knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. For he was just one man with the courage, determination, and passion to fight against crime and injustice, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Global outline. Alara, a lone woman on a dark street, was approached by 3 biker acquaintances who claimed they had stumbled upon her. Despite their initial reluctance to work with them due to past conflicts and personal differences, Mark, one of the bikers, sensed something about this unlikely partnership. They shared a common goal: protect New Haven's residents from the Brotherhood, a notorious gang responsible for numerous violent crimes in the city. After discussing their mission, they agreed to join forces under the banner of the Alliance, a group dedicated to bringing justice and reducing crime within the community. As they rode their bikes through the streets, Mark couldn't help but feel an adrenaline rush coursing through his veins. The Brotherhood's reputation was notorious for its ruthless tactics, including gun violence and extortion. But he knew that with Alara by his side, the Alliance had a chance to take down this enemy once and for all. They encountered various challenges on their journey, from hostile street vendors to corrupt law enforcement officials who were skeptical of the Alliance's intentions. Despite these obstacles, Mark was determined to succeed in their mission. He spoke with local community leaders, emphasizing the importance of collaboration and peaceful resolution over violent confrontation. Alara, a skilled hacker and computer specialist, used her knowledge to infiltrate the Brotherhood's inner workings. Through data breaches and surveillance operations, she gained valuable insights into their activities and weaknesses that would be crucial in their mission against them. Meanwhile, Mark worked closely with his fellow bikers on the ground to gather intelligence and execute targeted attacks. They focused on disrupting the Brotherhood's supply chains and gathering evidence for potential arrests or indictments. As they approached the gang's hideout, a tense atmosphere hung over the city. Members of both sides were ready for battle, each brandishing weapons at the sound of approaching sirens. Mark knew that this was their moment to make their mark on history, but he also understood the risks involved in taking matters into his own hands. The Alliance's leader, a charismatic and persuasive man named Jack, appeared before them with an impassioned speech addressing the citizens of New Haven. "We are not just fighting against criminals. We're standing up for our way of life, for justice, and for fairness. If you see anyone who is committing heinous crimes like the Brotherhood, do not hesitate to report it. Together, we can bring them down one by one." Mark listened intently, his voice shaking with determination as Jack spoke about the importance of unity and community in combating crime. He acknowledged that everyone had a role to play, from law enforcement officers who risked their lives every day to ordinary citizens who were willing to stand up for what was right. As they approached the Brotherhood's compound, Mark could feel his heart pounding with excitement mixed with fear. He knew it would be the ultimate test of their skills and their resolve as a team. Asterisk inside the building. Jack led them into an abandoned warehouse where the Brotherhood members were hiding out. They quickly assessed the situation, gathering weapons, maps, and evidence for potential arrests or containment measures. Asterisk Mark's adrenaline kicked in once again as he prepared to confront his enemies. He exchanged fire with some of their guards, but they managed to evade him using agility and quick reflexes. Alara joined the fray, hacking away at the Brotherhood members' weapons while Mark engaged them one-on-one. Asterisk as the battle raged on, Mark realized that there were no easy victories in this fight against a powerful gang with an entrenched network of supporters within New Haven's underworld. But he refused to give up hope. With Alara by his side and their combined expertise, they knew that they had what it took to defeat the Brotherhood. Asterisk finally, after hours of intense fighting, Mark emerged victorious. He managed to take down one of the key members of the Brotherhood, capturing him in a secure location for interrogation. Asterisk as news spread about their successful raid on the Brotherhood's hideout, the city erupted with cheers and applause from residents who had witnessed the bravery and dedication displayed by Mark and his team. Asterisk Alara was hailed as a hero not just among her fellow bikers, but also within New Haven itself. She received numerous awards for her actions and was invited to speak at rallies and community meetings, emphasizing the importance of unity and standing up against violence in their city. Asterisk the Alliance's success marked the beginning of a new era in fighting crime in New Haven. They had exposed the organization's illegal activities, disrupted its supply chains, and brought down key members within its ranks. With Jack at the helm as their leader, they were confident that the fight against corruption would continue to gain momentum. Asterisk as Mark returned home from his mission with a sense of pride and accompli. Meant, he couldn't help but reflect on the sacrifices made by those who fought alongside him. He knew that there would be challenges ahead, but for now, all that mattered was their determination to make New Haven a safer place for its residents to live. Asterisk as they said goodbye to Alara and her fellow bikers, Mark felt grateful for this incredible opportunity to work towards a common goal with like-minded individuals. He knew that the fight against crime would never truly be over until all those affected by the Brotherhood's reign of terror were free from their suffering. End global outline. The darkness on the dark street was unrelenting, with shadows casting long shadows over the three bikers who had just completed a daring heist. They were dressed in their signature black leather biker gear, each carrying a weapon that they hoped would prove their worth against any threat that may come their way. As Mark rode his motorcycle through the deserted streets of New Haven, he couldn't shake off the memory of the intense heat and humidity that had enveloped him during their mission. He had spent weeks training for this moment, honing his skills as a skilled biker while preparing himself mentally to face any challenge they may encounter. But despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins, Mark could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The Alliance's success in exposing the Brotherhood's illegal activities was just one step towards bringing down their leader and restoring peace to New Haven. But there were still many challenges ahead, including infiltrating their operations, gathering evidence against key members within the Brotherhood, and dealing with the fallout from their actions. As they made their way through the city, Mark encountered a group of armed men who seemed intent on stopping them at any cost. They had been tipped off by a local informant about the Brotherhood's plans to strike again, and they were determined to prevent it before it could happen. Mark drew his sword with practiced precision as he rode past the gang members, their faces twisted in anger and frustration. He knew that this was not an easy fight, but he also understood the importance of staying focused on their mission at hand. As they approached the Brotherhood's hideout, Mark felt a sense of déjà vu wash over him. This place had been familiar to him before, as it was where he had first met his fellow bikers and became involved in their organization. But now, with its former leader gone and the city under new leadership, this location seemed even more ominous. Mark hesitated for a moment, wondering if they should risk getting caught by the Brotherhood's guards or just try to sneak past them undetected. He knew that there were no guarantees, but he also couldn't ignore their mission at hand. With a deep breath and a steady pace, Mark led the bikers through the dimly lit entrance of the building, his senses on high alert for any signs of danger. They navigated through the bustling streets outside, avoiding alleyways and alleys that were known to be heavily guarded by the Brotherhood's forces. As they made their way deeper into the building, they found themselves in a room filled with evidence gathered against the Brotherhood. It was chaotic and disorienting, but Mark took note of the layout and quickly assessed which areas needed attention first. He approached one particular desk where two key members of the Brotherhood were located, a man named Michael who had been accused of orchestrating their latest operation, and a woman named Emily, who had been rumored to have ties to some powerful figures within the organization. Mark knew that he would need more information about Emily's involvement in the Brotherhood if they wanted to take her down. He approached Michael with a firm hand and asked him why he was there, hoping for an explanation or denial of any wrongdoing. Michael looked at Mark with cold eyes and sneered before responding. "You have no evidence against me, partner. You're just wasting your time." Mark knew that Emily's silence could be a sign of trouble, so he decided to take matters into his own hands. He approached her personally, holding out the evidence in front of her. Emily hesitated for a moment before looking at it with growing concern. She realized that she had been involved in the Brotherhood's illegal activities and knew too well the consequences that came with them. She slowly raised an eyebrow as Mark continued to speak, his words painting a picture of their past and its impact on the city. "I was part of this organization for years," Emily said finally, her voice trembling with emotion. "But I couldn't continue down that path any longer. The truth is, you have no proof against me, partner." Mark knew that Emily's response would not be enough to convince Michael to turn himself in and expose their activities to the authorities. They were powerful figures within the Brotherhood and had a lot at stake, including potential exposure to high-level corruption. But with his training and experience as a biker, Mark was determined to take matters into his own hands. He used this moment to make a bold move that would potentially change everything for everyone involved. He approached Michael once again, holding out the evidence in front of him this time with a more forceful tone. "I have no intention of leaving New Haven behind or running from you," Mark said firmly. "We need to work together. If we can expose the Brotherhood's illegal activities and bring them down, it will change everything for everyone here."